Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's Shanna. So glad you're here. Now, I've got this Happy Father's Day card that I made previously. It was on a hop for Kinder's Card Challenge, and I've got this Calls for Confetti stamp and die set, and I used it to make that card, and I used Sketch 7, and I actually flipped it. But this die set is so versatile that it can work for a lot of the sketches that are in Kinder's Card Challenge, and I'm just kind of pointing out some of them that I have in mind to use. And I'm going to bring in some different paper. Now, I didn't have enough of this Calls for Confetti paper pad left to make some more of those, so I'm bringing in this Pink and Main Plaids paper pad. And this paper just reminds me of, I don't know, like back in the older days, or olden days, men used to wear plaid pants like this, I guess in maybe the 60s or 70s or whatever. And it kind of reminded me of men's plaid pants, or my dad had some ties back in the day that he used to wear to church that were plaid. And there's one pattern in here specifically that reminded me of that. Somebody used Sketch 8 on this particular card here. And I'm just going to lay my dies out, and I'm going to get the dies that match measure closely to the sketch. Now, they won't be exactly right, but they're pretty close, and it will look very much like the sketch, but the measurements may not be exactly right. So I'm just going to lay down which dies I need on what colored paper so that I can layer it up according to the sketches, and I'll just pick each die that I need and get it laid down on there. And then I'm going to bring my die cutting machine in for this first card, and we'll do the cutting on the camera. I needed some white because I'm going to use it to stamp some stuff on and to line some of my patterned paper there. So I've just got my Spellbinder 6 die cutting machine that I'm bringing in, and we'll just get to die cutting all of these pieces and get them all ready so that we can assemble our card. Now, I don't believe I'll die cut the other two cards out on camera. I think I take it off camera and do it, but I just thought I'd bring it in and just do some quick die cutting with this. So I'm going to bring in my red paper and get those elements die cut out, and then we'll do the white, and then we'll move on to creating our card. I tried to look at the sketches from Kinder's Card Challenge and see which ones of those that these dies would work best on, and then use them, because I really enjoy using this die. I think it's incredibly versatile, and there's just lots of opportunity to use it. So we'll get this die cut out, and then we'll get the die cutting machine out of the way, and we'll start to assemble our card. And you can see how nicely it cuts out. So I've got all my elements there, I think, and then I realized that I need a red backer panel. And I'll realize that once I sit down here and start looking. So I'm going to bring in just another piece of red and that largest die, and I'll just die cut it out. And then we'll start assembling our card. So I need to bring in a card base. So I've got my score buddy there, and I'm just going to score a top folding at 5.5 and get it scored up, and then we'll put together a card. So this leaves a nice little white edge around it, and I really like that because there was a good amount of white in that plaid, and I thought it would look really nice on there. So we'll just lay this down, and we'll begin layering up our card. Just trying to get a nice edge on there. And then we'll bring in our pattern cardstock, and you can see both sides of that are nice. I could have used either side, but I preferred the one with a little bit more white on it. So we'll get it laid down on there. And then this is going to be my backer panel. And I'm going to get my stamp out to make sure it's going to fit on my white. I thought, did I cut that down too small? But thankfully, it was just the right size I needed. So I'm going to bring in my Misty, and I'm going to set that die cut piece down. And I'm actually going to move it because it's not very sticky there. So I'm going to move it over into a sticky spot, and then I'll lay this stamp down on there, and we'll get it stamped up. Just lay it down on there, get it nice and straight, and then we'll pick it up with the Misty door. And then I'm going to run and get some lumberjack plaid, or lumberjack red. Maybe it's called plaid, I'm not sure. And I'm going to use it to stamp this because I think the red will look nice on it. So we'll get it stamped up, and I think I might have to use a couple. It's a pretty juicy stamp set, but I think I will press it a couple times. I don't want to get too carried away with it. I'm going to ink it up again. And you can see the P, it looks like I'm not stamping it properly, but there's an area that you lay another stamp on there, and you can add your Father's Day, Mother's Day, holiday, whatever you choose. So I'm going to clean this off. And I should have stamped all of them because I'm going to do 3 cards, but I wasn't sure what I was going to do. So I'll pull it off, and you'll see me bring this Misty in and out as I need to do it. And then I think I finally decided I'm going to multi-stamp at one point. So I'm going to bring in Prize Ribbon, and it is a nice dark blue, and I'm going to ink up the Father's Day portion of this sentiment. And I had a little piece of my ink pad on there, and like a fray, and I just picked that off and then re-stamped it, and we'll just have Happy Father's Day on there. And this will be similar to that first inspiration card I showed you. And we've got that. We'll get the Misty out of the way, and then we'll layer up the rest of the card. We're going to layer this Happy Father's Day on that red panel, and we'll have a nice little red edge around it. And I'm going to use my tweezers so that I can just hopefully not touch my ink. And we'll get it laid down on there. And I think these are super quick, but nice cards for Father's Day. Now I have modified this because on the original sketch, the sentiment is up and down. It is a top folding card sketch, but then the sentiment is actually goes in the other direction. But because I'm using this Happy Father's Day, I needed it to go in the other direction. So I'll get this popped up, and we'll lay it down on our card base, and then we'll do our little, I think I called them wonky banners, because they're going to be angled, and I'm still going to add them, and we'll pretty much keep to the sketch element, except that I did flip that panel. So these two, I'm just going to lay them down. I started to cut them, but I'm going to lay them down on my little white panel. I found this is the best way to do it. Put your little edge around there on both pieces and lay them right up next to each other. And then I'm going to just trim them down on that angle, so we have that bias cut or whatever you want to call it. Then lay it down on my layered panel, and then just cut the layer, and that is the easiest way, I think, to make that banner. And I'm just going to go ahead and just get it laid down on the left side of the card, just like the sketch calls for. The only thing different is I've got my Happy Father's Day going in the other direction, and I think this turned out nice. I like the red and the blue. And so that was sketch 8, and then I'm going to move on to, let's see, what am I going to do next? I think I'm going to do sketch 13 next. I believe that's the one that I'm going to do next. So I'm going to bring in the dies that I need for sketch 13, and I'm going to need a backer panel and a layer, and then I'm going to need some banners as well. So I'll just get all these pieces together and go to my die cutting machine, and we'll get everything die cut out. Now we've got everything, and I need to build my card bases. I didn't have any card bases built, and so after I finished this video, I cut a whole bunch of them up, and I got them all scored up and ready, and I've got them in my basket, so I've got a good supply of them ready to go now. So now I'm just kind of seeing how I'm layering everything up. And I'm going to lay this blue down, and I'll have a nice little white edge around it, just like I did the other one, because I am using the same size die for each of these. I think the last one I used a bigger die on, but this will have a good white edge around it, and it'll look good with the white that is in my plaid paper here. And this particular plaid here does remind me of a pair of pants. I think I might have even had some plaid pants like this as a kid. I think we got them at Sears and Roebuck. Is that hilarious? That's how old I am. So I've got my panel that goes in the middle, and I'm going to take and stamp again my Happy Father's Day down on this white panel. And I'm just cleaning up the remnants because was thinking I was going to change colors, but I don't change colors on this one. So I'm going to get ready and get them all stamped up. So we'll get this one down there in the center, and I'm just making sure that stamp is good and dry. And I'm going to stamp up the happy on here. And give it a good press. And then this is when I decide that it probably would be better just to go ahead and stamp them both at the same time and not have to drag that Misty back in. So I'm going to pull this off, and I'm going to grab some scratch paper that I have, scrap paper that I have here, that I think is, I've checked to make sure it was big enough for my die, and it was. So I'm just going to try and get it lined up on there, and then we'll stamp that up, and it'll be good to go. And I'm going to bring in my father, and I'm actually going to use 2 different colors on the Father's Day. And so since I've got this one laying here, I'll go ahead and stamp it with one color. I think I do the black with this one, and then I will clean it and then stamp the other one up with blue. And so I'm just making more, being more efficient with my time. I've got black soot there, and I'm just stamping that down, and we're just being a little bit more efficient here, doing all the stamping at once. I should have done that at the start, but I wasn't certain that I was going to use white on all of them or whatever, and so now I'm just going to clean that off and get this laid back down, and I'm going to clean it real good and make sure it's dry, and then we'll lay it back down on our happy, pick it back up with our Misty, and then we'll put the blue on there, and we'll get this stamped down. And I'm using prize ribbon on this. Get it stamped down, and now we've got both of our sentiments for the next 2 cards. So now we'll go back to this card, which is sketch 13, and we're going to start getting all of our elements put together. And I did bring in some red for this, and I thought it'd be fun to have a red, white, and blue banner on there. So we'll get that laid down, and then your banner actually goes on the back of your sentiment panel. And I thought I was going to I'm going to actually create banners, and I'll just cut them all down. And I thought I'd put them in the order of red, white, and blue, but because I flipped my panel over upside down, I laid them down red, white, and blue, and then when I flipped it back over, I've got blue, white, and red, but it doesn't matter. It still looks really good. So the sketch calls for the middle banner to be longer than the other banners, so I'm going to push it down more, and I'll push the other banners up just to make them a little bit offset. And the sketch shows that none of the 3 of them are even, and so I kind of did that as well. I really like how that turned out with red, white, and blue on there. I was real pleased with that. I'm just going to glue it up and get it laid down on there. And then that will finish off our sketch 13. Now these are cards for men, so I'm not going to add any embellishments to them. I don't think you need them. We've got enough pattern and color that we don't need it. Now this next one, the black and the red, this is the one that reminds me of a tie that my dad had as I was a child. So I'm going to use black for this, and this is going to be a darker card than the other 2. So I'm just grabbing all the dies that I'm going to use for this sketch, which this particular sketch is, I'm trying to think which sketch this is. This is actually sketch 15, and I modify it a little bit. So we'll get all of our elements die cut out, and then we'll come back and assemble the card. So I've got all my pieces here, and I actually have left off 1 2¼ inch square that would go on there, but otherwise it matches the sketch 15. So we'll just take this strip of red paper, and we're going to kind of put it on the left edge of the card and just put a little frame around there. And then I'm going to bring in that plaid, the black plaid, and I'll get it laid down on there. And then we'll just layer up our Happy Father's Day, and we'll get it laid down on the card, and then that will finish up that card as well. I'm going to pop it up. And now we'll lay it down on there. And I think these are nice. I like them. I was real pleased with how they turned out. So let's just take a look at all of them. Actually, I've got to get my card base. I actually assembled that one completely before I actually even put my card base together. So I need to get it laid down on a card base. And then that'll finish this one up. So I'm impressed the glue press is still working quite well for me. So I'm getting it lined up. It looks good. So we've got our 3 cards, and we've got the original one that I made. And so I've got 4 of those with that. This calls for confetti stamp set, which I love, and I think they turned out real nice. I hope you like them. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.